So, you've probably heard a lot about India's AI summit over the last week. The Galgotias University embarrassment, Dario Amodei and Sam Altman refusing to hold hands, and all the hundreds and billions of dollars that were promised in investment. But here's something that may have gotten lost in the noise. A Bangalore based startup called Neosapien showed up with something they called India's first patented AI wearable. It's a sleek pendant that hangs off a chain around your neck. It learns your voice and listens to your conversations, helping you transcribe important notes and tasks on the go. The summit was supposed to be an important moment for Neosapien after its pitch on Shark Tank. This was the CEO Dhananjay Yadav's opportunity to demonstrate the wearable for the Prime Minister himself. But during a security lockdown for Prime Minister Modi's visit, the security assured the startup that it was safe to leave the devices behind because others were even leaving their laptops at their desks. But when the area reopened hours later, the wearables were gone. Eventually, two videographers who had been hired to cover the event were arrested, and reportedly, they had mistaken the devices for pen drives. Now, I'm taking this reason in good faith. And if you look up Neosapiens right now, you can see why someone would think their product was a pen drive. It's a pretty chaotic story, but it also kind of shows exactly where the AI wearables industry is at right now. While companies are coming up with complex tech and big promises, you also have a public that doesn't quite know what to make of it. Neosapien is not an isolated startup. 2 years ago, in 2023, an American startup called Humane, with backers like OpenAI's Sam Altman, launched a pin to much fanfare. It works the same way Neosapien does, and it also has a camera and scanner that could, for example, look at a bowl of almonds and tell you how many calories that is. In a Wired profile of Humane, a policeman stationed outside the company's San Francisco office told a reporter he'd noticed tiny squares on employees' clothes that kind of resembled police body cams and had been wondering what they were. All major tech companies like OpenAI, Apple, and Google are all working on different versions of AI wearables: glasses, pendants, earphones. The commercial success of Meta's glasses has actually even spurred Apple and Google into ramping up production on their own products. Because now, their point is that a revolutionary technology that's supposed to assist humankind when it's not busy replacing it shouldn't be limited to an app in a phone or a laptop to reach its full potential. It should be out in the world with you, seeing what you see, hearing what you hear, and helping you in real time. Especially for people who are tech savvy and eager to try new products and unlock new conveniences, it should be an easy draw. And part of the pitch is also almost noble. Free yourself from your phone screens and all the harmful content in it, all the social media platforms that are practically designed to keep you from ever looking away. Take this unobtrusive tech that lets you live your life while still letting technology enhance it. It's marketed directly to the people who vlog and document or record a lot of their life as it happens, like the most online generation or Gen Z, for example. But the reaction to these noble causes has not been resounding acceptance. While there are many proponents of the technology, there is just as much pushback, and dare I say, the pushback has been getting louder. Take some of the name calling Meta's smart glasses, and its wearers have been the targets of glass holes, fascist sunnies, e waste, and even hammerbait. And the pushback is coming largely from the crowd that was supposed to embrace this tech the most. The digital natives, the generation that surveys and studies have proven would give up privacy for convenience. They're the ones who have most openly greeted the launch of this new genre of tech with open derision. Welcome to Daybreak, a business podcast from the Ken. I'm your host, Rachel Verghese, and every day of the week, my co-host Nikha Sharma and I will bring you one news story that is worth understanding and worth your time. Today is Wednesday, the 25th of February. In September last year, a 22-year-old entrepreneur named Avi Schiffman spent about $1 million plastering the New York City subway with ads for his AI wearable startup called Friend. The ads made promises along the lines of, "I'll never leave dirty dishes in the sink, I'll never bail on our dinner plans, and even I'll binge the entire series with you." Essentially, it's a friend without the limitations of the humankind. The product is basically a small white disc that kind of looks like a pocket watch hanging off a thick string that bears an unfortunate resemblance to a shoelace. Or at least that's how Victoria Song, a tech reporter at The Verge, describes it. Like a lot of the wearables we've talked about, it's designed to be always on, listen to you, and assist you based on that data. It was New York's metro users, mostly young, who responded by defacing almost every single ad. They left comments like AI slop, human connection is sacred, and AI doesn't care if you live or die. It was also accused of profiting off of loneliness. Schiffman's response to this whole thing was to claim that the ads were intentionally designed with a lot of white space to invite exactly this kind of hate. Essentially, his point was that bad publicity is also publicity. But even after Friend was available to consumers, the reviews were far from glowing. For one, it seems to make interacting with actual friends a little awkward. Here's what Victoria Song wrote for The Verge. It's hard to take my friend anywhere. Friend looks like a glowing, chunky AirTag that hangs from your neck on a shoelace. It doesn't go with most outfits, and its always on glow draws attention to your chest in weird ways. The glow shines through even if you stick it under a blouse. It makes me feel self conscious, which is funny because hardly anyone has said anything to me about it. When people have noticed, the most common reaction I've received is, "Damn, that thing looks cheap," followed by, "Is that thing listening right now?" Their faces crunch up, and I can see them start to close off. That's when I usually take my friend off and stuff it into my bag. It's kind of a relief because my friend is a jerk who doesn't do much. She goes on to say that friend often mishears her or doesn't hear her at all, asking multiple times for repetitions. It has just one speaker, which made it kind of bad at doing the thing it's supposed to do, which is listen. It would sometimes even count audiobooks or broadcast audio as conversations. Song also documented several situations in which it was downright rude, but I'd suggest reading her review in full. I'll link it below. Remember Humane, the startup that launched the AI pin I mentioned earlier? It was essentially the first high profile, heavily funded attempt. They raised about $230 million on this kind of a screenless ambient device. After the initial splash it made when it was announced, it sank soon. When it shipped in early 2024, early reviews butchered it. Engadget said, "It solves nothing and makes me feel stupid." The Verge found it failed to respond at least half the time, saying that the system just waits and then fails. A popular reviewer called MKBHD called it one of the worst products he'd ever reviewed, and that video has 8.5 million views. They all called it different words for clunky, limited, slow, unreliable, with terrible battery life, and not really doing anything more than what a smartphone would do. Less than a year later, it was acquired by HP for $116 million, a fraction of its $750 million valuation. Humane alerted its customers who had already bought the pin that their devices would stop functioning by 28th February 12 p.m. The pins would no longer connect to the Humane servers, which essentially rendered them useless. And most customers wouldn't get a refund either, leaving them with a $700 piece of plastic junk. Friend has clearly not inspired much praise either. The initial reception for Neo Sapien, on the other hand, has been largely positive, but only for the productivity enthusiasts and busy professionals, the ones who are constantly in meetings and need those transcription notes. It still doesn't quite live the free your hands to live your life promise, though you could argue that Neo Sapien has firmly positioned itself as a productivity tool and not a constant companion. Now, you might also be thinking that these are all first generation models and that they're only going to get better at delivering on that same promise. You might be right. Case in point is possibly the most successful AI wearable till date, the Meta Smart Glasses. They're supposed to do quite a bunch of things, offer live subtitling, answer questions like, "Meta, what is this?" while you look at the this in question, and even guide you using map directions on the lens display. That still hasn't stopped it from facing its fair share of backlash for very similar reasons. For example, reviewers also mentioned that using the glasses in public has been awkward. The Meta Ray-Bans, though it works well, has been banned for short battery times, poor Wi-Fi connectivity, and has even caused people headaches because they constantly have to look at a very specific point on the display where the menu is. Granted, these are all problems that could easily go away with newer models and releases, but well, here's where we stand. Chris Velasco wrote a tech review for the Washington Post about his experience with smart glasses. It wasn't Meta, but a company called Even Realities. It offers a simple setup with no camera but does have a lens display and ambient audio. Similar to Song, Velasco shared that he had often been asked if the glasses were recording. And even when he assured others that they were not being recorded, people would often get cagey just on the off chance that the glasses were in fact recording. He also noted that conversations would get a little complicated when people assumed he was distracted, basically paying attention to what was on the glasses instead of the interaction itself. He concluded his review by writing this: some of these social issues may iron themselves out over time if smart glasses manage to achieve the kind of ubiquity tech executives such as Zuckerberg seem to want. We may all get used to a life even more fully framed by screens and cameras and microphones. Until that happens, though, wearing smart glasses can make moving through the world feel a little socially graceless. And that reality may genuinely be reaching us soon, but not without resistance. Stay tuned. Now, here's where things get a little complicated. I said before that somehow the crowd that's the most closed off to these products is Gen Z. It's an interesting contradiction because Gen Z has often been understood as being quite ready to share data and personal information in exchange for personalized experiences and convenience. Malwarebytes, the cybersecurity company that also advocates for data and privacy rights, conducted a study with users a couple years ago. Their Gen Z respondents revealed something interesting about the way the generation thinks about privacy. In general, while most Gen Z do care about privacy, they also, perhaps pessimistically, believe that the fight for privacy, especially with data brokers and other bad actors, is a lost cause. Their anxieties now lie somewhere else entirely. It's less about what or who has access to their data. It's more about what gets exposed without their consent in public and how that information can affect their relationships. And the numbers show exactly how bad it is for them. 23% of the respondents had suffered worsened mental health after something was posted online, 18% was stalked or bullied, and 17% lost a close friend or relationship because of involuntary exposure of data. Perhaps this is why, despite being kind of tolerant of surveillance, or perhaps desensitized is the right word, the Malwarebytes survey showed that Gen Z respondents were more likely to ask their friends or family for consent before posting anything publicly. And this is the exact tension we're seeing wearables run into. Think about the acquaintances scrunching up their nose as they ask Song if that thing is listening. And all the people who asked Velasco if he was recording them, but remained guarded even when he assured them that they were not. Alice Marvick, director at nonprofit research institute Data and Society, said in a Washington Post report that young people feel like there's nothing they can do to protect their privacy anymore. The only solution seems to be to just stay off the internet, which really isn't possible. So people create their own boundaries and their own norms and rules for their friends and family about what they do or don't post on social media. Take the Meta glasses as an example. Several male influencers have used it to record women without their knowing and, of course, their consent. These women have only found out they were recorded after they saw videos of themselves posted online. The company had nothing to say about this, except that an LED light that blinks is supposed to clue in people if the user is recording. Though, as it usually happens, other techies have found their workarounds for this. There are ways to turn off the light or disable it entirely, despite Meta's claims that messing with the light will stop the glasses from recording altogether. Song, in another review, mentioned that the LED light on their spouse's glasses had stopped working of their own accord, and that hasn't affected the glasses' recording capabilities in any way. Last week, I spoke in an episode about how Meta, along with other social media companies, is currently on trial for allegedly designing products in a way that actively put teens in danger and encourages addiction. It's basically going through a huge movement of eroding trust. And a study conducted by Morning Consult in September last year showed that nearly 20% of Gen Z would stop trusting a brand based on the way the brand used AI. This was the highest number from all the generations studied. So you can imagine then how potential users, and especially young ones, would react when, after Meta had already sold 7 million units, it decided to backtrack on a promise it had explicitly made before. Here's what happened. In 2024, two Harvard students had demonstrated the danger of using Meta's glasses with third party facial recognition. The use case was to identify strangers with public profiles and pull up their names and other details. At the time, the company said it was an external hack and not a feature. Now, since early 2025, Meta insiders have been debating how to roll out that exact hack as a feature, internally acknowledging significant safety and privacy risks. A recent leak of an internal memo from May last year stated that the company planned to launch the feature during a dynamic political environment so that activists and civil societies would be focused elsewhere. And fine, let's put the doom and gloom panopticon aside. Let's instead consider all the bugs and inconveniences that seem consistent with every single wearable product we've discussed so far. Remember how I said Gen Z is fine with signing over data for convenience? Well, it really doesn't seem like there's much to gain for them over there either. So basically, nowhere is safe. And this is exactly the contradiction at the heart of the wearable movement. It's being sold as freedom from other screens, but as far as the most online generation can see, it's just the threat of being locked in all over again. This time, in a world where every other glass, pendant, or AirPod is watching your every move and listening and carelessly transcribing every single word.
Daybreak is produced from the newsroom of The Ken, India's first subscriber focused business news platform. What you're listening to is just a small sample of our subscriber only offerings. A full subscription offers daily long form feature stories, newsletters, and a whole bunch of premium podcasts. To subscribe, head to theken.com and click on the red subscribe button on the top of the Ken website. Today's episode was hosted and produced by my colleague Rachel Varghese and edited by Rajiv Sien.